Hey, welcome. It's Brian, and today I wanted to talk about my top 5 Bill Bruford recordings. And some of these, he's the leader on, some he is not, so it's kind of across the board. And we know how many incredible situations Bill's been in, whether it was Yes, King Crimson, Genesis, and I'll mention others that are important as well. And please, if you have some others, I'd love to hear yours. And to be honest, this list could easily be 15. And in no way are these basically graded. Number one doesn't mean it's number one, but all of these are really, really important records. But I wanted to make it short so we could basically, hopefully get a conversation going on what your favorites are and kind of go from there. And I'm sure I would agree on most. With that said, I'm going to start out with one of the records, although I had been listening to Bill for over probably 10, 15 years, well, actually 7 or 8, I should say. And that is the Earthworks record, which came out in 87, I believe, and was such a kind of cool turn from the whole King Crimson thing being, the Discipline, Beat, and Three of a Perfect Pair trilogy records. I had loved those. I loved Bill Bruford's band with Alan and Jeff Berlin and UK, and of course King Crimson. I could go on and on and on. But that Earthworks record, I'll never forget hearing the opening song. Is it Thud? Or I'm not sure which one it is anymore, but there was actually a video for Up North, which is this cool kind of ballad kind of piece that Bill is really excelling in composition and a very unique kind of way of composing songs that was really important. Actually, the song I'm thinking of is Bridge of Inhibition, and that starts with this amazingly cool, like a Simmons, but with samples kind of sounds. And I think this is the first record he had been using Simmons and King Crimson probably since Beat. But for Earthworks, I think he was finally able to sample sounds and manipulate them to kind of create cool textures. And that record, although essentially is a jazz record, it's an acoustic record as far as the horn players and the bass player. At least on the first one, he's playing upright, and I'll look here and see what his name is. But you have Django Bates playing, I think he was playing tenor. And so you got a jazz band with a guy playing essentially electronic drums. I think the next record, Dig, that might have been a little more everybody was doing, or there was an electric bass player, that kind of thing. But Earthworks just blew me away the first time I heard it, and the sounds, and it was very much of the time. All the sampling that was going on, the synclavier and the Fairlight were coming to kind of fruition, or whatever you want to say. They were becoming able to manipulate samples, and you could do that and create a whole world of sounds. Lots of guitar players were doing it. Bill was doing it with Simmons drums, or whatever the pads he was using, but I believe it was Simmons. So I just always loved that record. Um, so yeah, Earthworks, the first record. Next would be, of course, Yes is Close to the Edge, and that would be Bill's last record with Yes. But um, I don't even know if it's his best playing on a Yes record, but that record and just his approach to making these songs kind of come alive and kind of have this propulsive kind of forward thing, kind of feeling, this kind of push that really makes the songs come alive, and knowing when to pull back to kind of create texture and to let things breathe. And that record is probably one of the most important progressive rock records of all time. It's not the only one, but it's definitely up there. And that's kind of, to me, has a lot to do with Bill's kind of handling of the drum chair. We have Alan White step in for the tour. And, you know, uh, I think Alan's a great drummer, but it just wasn't the same for me. There's just something magical about Bill on all these recordings that I will mention. And so, Close to the Edge, I still love that record today, and I think it has a lot to do with Bill's playing. And, it's an ensemble record, but Bill is a huge part of that. Next, I'm going to say Discipline because that's an easy one by King Crimson. And I remember hearing that record I knew about Bill Bruford, weirdly, but I didn't know about King Crimson until about this record. And I had a friend, and we were listening to Camel. We were listening to the whole Canterbury scene and Bill Laswell, like a lot of eclectic stuff. But I had not heard early King Crimson yet. So weirdly, Discipline was my introduction in a big way to King Crimson and the rest of the players, except Bill Bruford, who I had, heard some before, but I wasn't, following him or whatever. So Discipline just made such a huge impact on music from that time. It had this kind of sensibility with Adrian writing these great songs and not super complex, but yet they really had all that great inner kind of interweaving guitar parts and Adrian's great vocal delivery and like the sounds and stuff. And then you have Bill Bruford doing the stuff with some percussion. And as we know, and that I think is somewhat well documented, Robert insisting that Bill not use a lot of cymbals, I think, to essentially not clutter up the high end or something. I don't know if that's true, but that's one of those things I remember hearing about. So Discipline really changed my perspective and made Robert Fripp one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and Bill Bruford as well. Next, I am going to say, I was going to say Starless and Bible Black because that's a really important King Crimson record to me. It's my favorite from the 69 to 75 band. But what I'm actually going to say is David Torn's record, Cloud About Mercury. I love that record since the day I got it, which was not too long after it came out, if I remember. And I still listen to that on a weekly basis sometimes. And Bill's playing on that, along with everyone else, Tony Levin and David's playing, of course, and Mark Isham. Just a really unique record that is like probably a top 25 record of all time for me. So I love his playing on Clouds About Mercury. So yeah, and a huge David Torn fan too. So it's kind of a win-win. So yeah, that would be the next one. That is a great record. The next is kind of a curveball, maybe, and I was a huge fan of Kasumi Watanabe with the first two Mobo Club records, or Mobo is what they were called, I believe. And those records were really eclectic and had like Sly and Robbie from Black Uhuru, and I think Michael Brecker and all sorts of cool jazz players, Marcus Miller. So it had a lot of great jazz fusion session people on them. And then around, I think it's around 85, he gets together with Kasumi Watanabe, and Bill Bruford and Jeff Berlin get together, and they make their first record, Spice of Life. And like I said, I really dug Kasumi and I liked all of those players, and they got together and did this thing. And that first record was really, really great. And to have Bill, he was doing a lot of the Simmons stuff still, electronic drums. And then you have Jeff Berlin kind of doing these really great bass kind of riffs and stuff, but yet soloing and doing these really great melodic things. And then you have Bill kind of doing his thing over the back of it. So it was like a kind of a cool, not necessarily improvisationally based band, because they were all very tightly composed pieces for the most part. But you got the feeling that Bill in that band was kind of letting loose a little bit. And but without losing the sight of the composition or something. And so I always loved his playing on that. And those are some other records I'm going to revisit. I'm kind of doing this kind of top 5, my favorite records of certain players that are really important to me. And I'm just kind of going off of what I think at the moment. But as we talk, it evolves in the sense of like, oh, I need to revisit a lot of the Earthworks records, or even listen to the Spice of Life records with Kasumi Watanabe. And so this is really fun to do. If you have some great and maybe unique records by Bill Bruford you'd love to throw in here, I can think of many, But I would love to hear your thoughts on it and get kind of a conversation going, like I mentioned at the beginning. And I think Bill's one of the most important drummers in whatever you want to call it, instrumental pop, progressive rock, jazz. He's just such a unique and incredibly gifted player for sure. So that is it. Thank you. I'll see you soon.